I hope this is recording. Hi, I wanted to quickly go over, oh God, I'm sounding like a teacher. Not the move. I wanted to quickly make a video about something that I don't know the name of really, but that I find to be super interesting. And if it has a name, I apologize for not being wise to it, but the name I've dubbed it has been inverse pedal point, in the same way that a pedal point or pedal tone may be one note that is held out for a long time, specifically on an organ that has chords changing over it. This is kind of the inverse of that, where it's one note that's held above the rest of the chords and the chords underneath it change. And I feel like a lot of us utilize that idea without really being aware of it. I am most certainly privy to this, but I want to see how far I can get with this. Here I have Logic open again. Welcome. This is Logic Sessions. I'm going to create a software instrument track, and that software instrument is going to go to my digital piano. So this will be fun. So one of the things that I want to do with this is I want to use the tone out of the piano itself. The way that Logic works with this is that I have to assign it as the input. I have my interface already as the input, so a way that I'm going to get around that is by assigning both of them as the inputs. You can do this by using a application that's built into Macs called Audio MIDI Setup. So you can go to Launchpad or you can go to Spotlight or whatever you want, and you can just type in Audio MIDI Setup, and you can create an aggregate device such as I will right now, and you can see digital pianos right there and Scarlett is right there. I'm going to have the drift correction be on the digital piano and have the clock source be the 6i6. So now I'm going to go into Logic Preferences. I'm going to set the input device to be this aggregate device. There we go. And I'm going to apply it. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'll be going into where the instrument is. I have it recently, but I'll also show it off here, which is in under Utility, External Instrument, and I can choose my stereo. My MIDI destination is going to be the digital piano. You can see that both of them popped up because both of them are my input devices. And my input is going to be 1, 2, let's say. I honestly am quite... Yes, it will be 1, 2 because the digital piano is appearing first. Is that correct? Yes, 1, 2 right here. Actually, it's here, 1, 2. So hopefully when I play the piano, it will sound out through here. That worked. I'm going to set up a reverb send to my first bus here. This is going to send out -6. And I'm going to go down to my reverb, choose Space Designer because I quite like that one. And let me load up a different IR. What sounds cool? Like as a name. Church Tower sounds cool. I didn't read all of them. That was just the one that I saw. Let's hear that. Yeah, it's a lovely amount of reverb actually. I don't know what I'm going to be playing, by the way. Just yeah, I haven't really figured it out. So we're gonna figure it out together, if that's okay. I think something like that might work out kind of well. If I can remember how I played that. I should probably get a camera on myself playing that. I can do that, yeah. Yeah, I've got a camera, hopefully. I see one back there. Oh! I have 9 minutes left on the SD card, so I'm hoping that this is going to work. I should record, and then I should put the reverse pedal point on. Yeah, something along those lines. Hopefully that recorded. All right, so one of the other things to note about using this external instrument plugin for Logic, which is quite confusing, honestly, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense initially, is that if you wanted to bounce it in place, it wouldn't work. So normally you'd use Control B for a lot of MIDI instruments, and you can hit OK and it would bounce it in place. There might be a way to bounce in place that I haven't quite figured out yet. So the way that I've been doing it recently has been creating a new audio track. I'm going to sneeze, hold on. Excuse me. Create a new audio track and sending this output to be to a bus, then having the stereo input be the bus itself. This seems to work out well for me for the time being. Because of that, I'm going to disable the send to our reverb bus, which I happily did not name. I know I begin around here, so I can just hit the record button, and if I did something wrong, we'll find out. It is sounding slightly quiet, so I'm going to put a gain plugin. Yeah, let's do 6 decibels. 6 decibels is 1 doubling in audio, by the way. Just a little tidbit of the day, I suppose. I pressed the sustain pedal prior, so I actually need to start it from a little bit earlier. Yeah, I think that works for my first time playing for the day. You might be asking the question as well, well, why would you use the external instrument plugin if it's so cumbersome to use? Why wouldn't you just use, Logic's built-in Bosendorfer for piano or Steinway or Yamaha sound? So the piano that I have is a Yamaha P515. And the tone advait is a sampled CFX Grand. I really like the sound of it. It is very well sampled. It's gorgeous, I think. But it outclasses the piano plugins in Logic in most every regard. There are some quirks with the external instrument plugin, or instrument technically. Some weird things where harmonics ring out awkwardly is probably a better way to put it instead of odd or even. They ring out awkwardly. But as you heard, I was not playing in time. I was literally improvising it entirely. So now what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate that track and I'm going to mute it. And I can create the ostinato note that I wanted on top of that. So I guess this is now a 3 hands piano piece. Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I played 1D in there instead. The inverse pedal tone note that I used was gonna be E. It wasn't in E, but E was kind of the note that I emphasized when I was playing it through. So that's what I decided to do. Yeah, there was one point where I hit a D and it moved with the melody. Don't know why I did it. I just did. Since I duplicated this track, you can see, you can't see where I'm pointing, but you can see that over here the bus 2 is also duplicated along with the gain track, which means that all I have to do is duplicate this audio track and I'm able to start recording again. And also at the beginning, I was definitely much more loose with it when I was adding in that high E, whereas towards the end, I started bringing it back in a lot more with octaves particularly. That C that I hit instead of a C sharp, I'm going to choose to say that that was a spicy note and not an accident. I think this is possible to play with 2 hands. I don't know. I didn't check. And this is what it sounds like, which means that I can reintroduce that first bus to both of these, but I can control both of their reverbs at one time. So I will say this does sound like a little bit weird, this reverb specifically. I'll try this one. This one sounds more natural. You can solo the reverb. You can also rename it to something that's more intuitive. And the great thing about having these MIDI notes now tracked is that you can copy them into another instrument that might actually be a Logic virtual instrument, and you can utilize them. So if I wanted to have a cello that was kind of playing along with it, I would just need to copy the MIDI track data and eliminate what I don't need. And actually I could do that right now. I don't see why I don't do that right now. So if I look for a cello, I know which one I'm looking for. I'm looking for studio cellos, which is actually multiple, and I can copy it like that. Sounds gorgeous. Pizzicato. There you go. That sounds nice and lovely. And I can then send them to the exact same room with the exact same amount of reverb, and they will sound as if they're in the same room. I can do this as well with some violas. And I'm actually going to mute this track because I don't want to hear that really loud sound again. I'm just going to assume that it's these notes. Yep, dun, dun. And then we can go and grab some violins. Yeah, that's where the issue is happening in my head. What I can do is I can actually copy this. That is not how you copy something properly. I can unmute it. I can go to the editor for it. And I can shove all that down an octave. Now it sounds kind of unbalanced, right? So you can select multiple tracks and you can sum them together, and I can call these strings. And I can go into my EQ and I can basically take them all down from there. So I don't have to have slightly different EQ curves on each of them as I'm trying to balance them out properly or trying to remember the numbers. Instead, I can actually just apply one effect to all of them at the exact same time. And this panning is kind of a little awkward to me. So you're going to be positive 30 then. And then for all of these, I can decrease it by -3 simultaneously while retaining their relative volumes. I guess in this example, I mainly stuck to 2 chords in the left hand, which wasn't exactly what I was thinking of doing, but I think that when you have a higher note that is functioning like this, it's a little bit more room to work with rather than a one pedal tone that's being held out, where you have to make sure all the chords above the pedal tone actually do fit properly. You can have this high pedal tone figure almost functioning slightly differently, where the chords underneath it don't necessarily have to be thought out as terribly much, because even seconds will work out nicely. They can turn into ninths, and when you're at those higher range pitches, it sounds a lot less muddy and confusing to the ears. So this is I suppose a very, very quick way to also show off the external instrument plugin, which is a great plugin if you have a digital piano or other MIDI instrument that you really like the sounds of, but are having a hard time trying to replicate those sounds inside Logic, and also showing off some very simple bussing into a reverb bus. Really quickly, another way that I could have done that reverb bus, which I didn't do because I had thought of it afterward, thought of doing this afterwards, was essentially if you have all these sending to no stereo bus, you can actually have the summing bus send to that stereo reverb instead. This will sound slightly different, but it is less stressful and straining on your computer if that is something that is keeping you up at night. All right, let's save this. This is going to be called something like External Instruments and Fast Loves. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble on and change topics very quickly. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope to see you soon in a time very close to now.